Hey guys, Alex Shepard here, back at it again with another video. Really excited for this video that you guys are going to get to enjoy today. I have an interview with the great Seth Rowlands, who I'm going to introduce in the video because this is a pre-recorded upload, but he is a top realtor and he's going to share why he is such a great real estate agent and some things that you could use as an entrepreneur in any field to apply and go to the top of your field the way Seth has. But before I get into that video, I do just want to preface it by saying that yes, this is a pre-recorded video because initially this interview was for a paid product and multiple people have paid to see this content. But I decided, you know what? We have a big goal. We're trying to grow this YouTube channel. Why not give the people what they need? Why not make it free? So if you enjoy this video, if you appreciate the video, if you get some value out of it, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are making some serious progress, not even a week in, or maybe this is the 7th day, and we've already got 30 subscribers. We're trying now to, by the end of this week, so that will be in a few days here, we are trying to get to over 50 subscribers. So make sure that you subscribe. We are going to talk about some political stuff. We're going to be talking about some current events. And then, yes, we are going to be talking about business, sales, and entrepreneurship as well. So hit the subscribe button. Let me know what you think of the video, comment, and then share it with everyone you know. We're not paying for advertising on this channel, so the only way that we can grow this thing is with your help. So make sure you share it with someone. And without further ado, I'll let you get in the video and enjoy. All right, we are recording. So guys, I'm interviewing right now Seth Rowlands. I have great respect for him. Just a little bit of background on Seth. He is a real estate agent in Central Florida. He is the #1 agent in his company, number 350 out of over 16,000 people in Central Florida, which makes him top 2% if you do the math, which I did.
Yeah.
He's the author of the ebook Write and Get Rich, where he teaches people how to publish digital products and write ebooks and make money selling them. He also is the author of the Real Estate Affirmation book, where in that he shares all of the affirmations that he uses to succeed at a high level in his real estate business. And you're soon releasing The Language of Influence, right?
Yeah, that's coming. It's coming.
I'm excited for that. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we dive in?
Yeah, it's just going to be a book about how to use words to influence not only people in terms of sales, but also yourself. Because we're constantly talking to ourselves in our head all day long. And if you start to say things a certain way, meaning certain words, phrases, a lot of problems we have are in our heads, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an exciting book. I'm definitely working on it, and it's going to be something amazing. I can tell you that.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, he also, by the way, to continue kind of the intro, you worked for Tony Robbins for a while, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what I think makes him unique, he kind of touched on it already, but he seems to really have a great understanding of auto-suggestion, kind of how the subconscious ties into it with affirmations and neurolinguistic programming as well. So we're going to dive in with him on that today. But cool. Before we dive into kind of, all that, I guess, knowledge stuff, just tell us a little bit about you and your story. And I guess before you even got started, who were you growing up?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first, thanks for having me. I definitely appreciate it. My story is pretty simple. I grew up in a very small rural town in eastern Pennsylvania, in an area called the Poconos. Wasn't much to do growing up. We spent a lot of time outside, catching frogs and turtles, just living a basic rural life. And there wasn't much going on outside of our little area. And growing up, I really didn't have mentors. I didn't see people doing extremely successful things. People just got by. And as I got older, I didn't aspire for much. And after high school, it was time to make some decisions in life, and I didn't really know what decisions to make. So I gravitated toward what I knew, which is art. I had always been doing art. So I went to college for art, and I just assumed since I was good at art, I should follow it to a career. And I'd probably say after the first semester, I knew right away that wasn't something I wanted to do. Sometimes taking a hobby and trying to make a career out of it, you lose the love of it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I quickly realized that as much as I liked art, that wasn't going to be my thing. And, you know, I didn't have people encouraging me to set goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I don't even know if I set a goal up until that point, right? It just wasn't even in my space. And I want to say I was probably right around 19 years old. I stumbled upon a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very important book in my life because it was the first time I realized that how I thought mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Because up until that part, I just thought thoughts and went about my life assuming life was the way it was. I didn't really think beyond that.
Yeah.
And I started naturally getting into it because I was so excited. I wanted to read more. And lo and behold, it was at a time when, if you are old enough to remember Napster, I was downloading things on Napster. And one day I, for whatever reason, downloaded Anthony Robbins, right? And I don't even know what he was talking about, but man, when you first hear Tony Robbins talk, whatever he's talking about, it's exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't ever, I've never had someone like that in my life. So I was naturally drawn to it. I wanted to hear more of it. And the more I heard of it, the more in love I fell more in love with it because I was like, man, this guy makes a lot of sense. You know, this is something I wasn't hearing in my little town.
Mm-hmm.
And needless to say, your environment plays a critical role in your success, right?
Right.
And it's great to feel inspired, but if that inspiration doesn't have an outlet, you know, oftentimes it fizzles out and you lose your inspiration because frankly, you got to apply it. You got to go use it somewhere. So right after I turned 21, I made the decision to move across the country to Los Angeles. And at that time, my brother had moved out there a few years prior, and I went to go live with him. And I knew I had to get in a different environment because I was starting to think bigger, but I didn't have anything to do with that energy,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then once I got out there, I was working on computers and whatnot. And this is right when the real estate boom was happening. And, you know, everybody around at that time was making money in real estate because it was frankly the biggest thing in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, hey man, why don't I just get in real estate, you know? So ended up getting in real estate, and a lot of great things unfolded since then, man. Definitely a lot of great things.
Right on, right on. So, yeah, that's funny how a lot of times you're kind of not awake to how important your thinking is until it's like a certain book that kind of
Yes.
stumble upon and inspires you. For me, it was The Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill.
Yes.
My first big eye opener.
Yes.
So yeah, that's awesome. And so what was it specifically that Tony Robbins was saying that you hadn't heard prior by anyone?
I don't know if it was what he was saying. It was who he was being.
Mm.
Who he was being was someone I had never experienced in terms of he was just a forward thinking, anything's possible, can do it type of person.
Right.
And his energy was through the roof. So oftentimes, especially in a small rural area, people are pretty simple, and simple not in terms of intellect, but just they just go about their way of life.
Right.
They don't have high energy, and if anything, it's low energy. And he was just exciting. I was like, whatever this guy does, I want to be part of it, you know? And I truly meant that. I really wanted to be part of whatever he was doing. And my story unfolds, and part of it is, you know, I ended up joining him. So it's pretty amazing what can happen.
Yeah. And what were you doing for him? And kind of how was working for him?
It was amazing. So let me actually take a step back, because the story that leads there is actually more exciting.
Yeah.
So I had been working at a computer company, and at the time, the girl I was dating worked for a real estate office, and the woman that owned that office was friends with Tony Robbins. Now, Tony came from a town called Glendora, California, and that's where that real estate office was. And one day I get a call saying that Tony's coming to Anaheim, California. He's going to be doing an event called Unleash the Power Within.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have to hear anymore. I was like, I'm in, you know, sign me up. The moment I went to this event, I walked through the doors and the energy was so through the roof. If you've never been to a Tony Robbins event, it's exactly like a rock concert. Okay. And I was blown away. You know, most seminars up until that point in my life, you just sit down, you take notes, and it's very lull, you know, just a dull. This guy was just through the roof, comes out, this monster of a man, you know, he's clapping, all the music's pumping. And I fell so in love with the energy. I didn't want it to end after the event. So I eventually made the decision to leave the job I was working at the time on computers and got into real estate. And I said, well, I want to go to this office where, you know, I was introduced to Tony Robbins, because if they like Tony and I like Tony, that's a great fit for me. Mm-hmm. So I started working in real estate, and I started applying a lot of these things because real estate gave me a platform to be self-motivated, right? My results equaled my paycheck. So now I was like, okay, if I write the goals, if I show up with energy, I could correlate the result, because it was increased sales and income.
Right.
You know, where I was at the other place where I was working on computers, I could be motivated, happy, and excited, but I'm only getting an hourly wage, right?
Yeah.
So I threw myself into real estate. And then around 2005, a second event came, the same event, but it came around again. And I ended up going again. And it opened up my eyes even more, because, see, the first time you hear something, your brain doesn't take it all in, because you'll hear something and then you'll go off on a tangent in your mind.
Right.
So the second time I heard it, it was like I was filling in the gaps. Mm-hmm. And one of the gaps is this isn't the end, it's really the beginning. Mm-hmm. Whenever we learn something, as good as it feels, it's not the end, because the beginning is you go back out and you apply this now. So what I did was I hired a coach, and the coach they assigned me with was Tony's son. So I thought this was like a sign, you know, I'm like one degree separation now.
Yeah.
And my business took off because I came back even more motivated, more focused. I'm working with his son. He's coaching me, and my business just takes off like a rocket. I mean, everything I did worked out because I had this belief I was unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I didn't fail. It was that I was constantly looking for and finding like mentors and things to learn from. Tony's very big on modeling, right? Modeling success. Yeah. So I was constantly trying to find out other successful people in real estate, what they were doing, what they were saying. And then fast forward to 2006-07, a movie called The Secret comes out. Now, at this time in Los Angeles, it was like the epicenter of where The Secret is from. A lot of the teachers are from there, so it was spreading like wildfire. Mm-hmm. Well, Tony used to teach a version of The Secret, but he did it in a more technical way, right? So I took everything I learned from The Secret, and I started using the law of attraction, basically, and I started applying it. And one of the principles was, we manifest a lot of great things in our life, but oftentimes we don't allow things to come into our life. We don't make time for them. We say, you know, not now, I'm not ready, whatever. Mm. Well, I get an email about March of 2007, and it's Tony's son inviting me to an event in Santa Monica, California. So, you know, I had avoided these events because most of the time I always feel like they're going to be a sales pitch, so I didn't go. But this time I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. Alex, the moment I walked in there, my energy just felt like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Not only does Jarek give an amazing workshop, but at the end, he invites everyone. If anyone's interested, they're looking for people to come work for them. Now, back up 2001, I wanted to work for Tony Robbins, but I was about 2 hours away from his office. I didn't have a platform. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I said to myself, man, I would love to go work for this guy. Little did I know that seed was planted in my mind, and everything I was doing was leading me up to that moment.
Yeah.
Before I knew it, I was in a room of 25 people in San Diego, California, with Tony Robbins being interviewed to work for his company.
That's awesome.
Talk about mind-blowing, brother.
Yeah.
I can't even put in words, man. It's like you're so much closer to your dreams than sometimes you realize.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
Yeah.
We always want to say I'm too young, I don't have enough experience, but the reality is most of us are just one closed door away from something freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I aced the interview, man, and I got hired for the job, and pretty incredible story after that.
Right on. Yeah, that's a crazy good story. And it's so true how, you know, one thing just kind of leads to another. You don't really know what's you know, what's going to happen. You may have a 5-year plan, but you don't know what 5 years from now it's going to look like.
That's right.
And yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
So then you got accepted for the position with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Then what?
Well, getting accepted was such huge because remember, I got a thriving real estate business, and they interviewed me where I had to basically memorize this massive script. So thankfully I went down there, nailed it, and they said, well, you can live anywhere you want. And it was always my dream to live in Hollywood because anytime you move to LA, I'm sure most people, they want to live in the center of it, which is Hollywood.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I sold my house. I found a apartment off of Sunset Strip. I mean, it was like, if you were to talk about like what was my goals, in an instant, almost like 10 of my goals were achieved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had the house, the lifestyle, the car. I mean, it was just amazing. And what I started to do was I worked the Los Angeles area as like a field salesperson, where I would go to company to company to company, doing presentations, selling his Unleash the Power Within event.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the time, Tony was trying to basically develop a digital model where it was like a 4-day movie of him instead of him being there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very hard because without having him there, it didn't have the same draw. So in August of 2007, I decided to go on the road, and I traveled to Atlanta. And then from that point, I would stay in each city about 3 to 5 months selling the Unleash the Power Within event. And I would go to companies, primarily real estate companies, car dealerships, explain to them the event, right, in a sales way, in terms of getting them to know about it, learn about it, want to go to it, and then sell the tickets. And the goal was to help Tony fill up the room for the event. And I did that for about 3 years, man. Had some pretty awesome experiences. And the thing that I was able to do, this was when the economy was crashing from 2007 to 2010. So a lot of people that went through that time period saw it on a very small level. I saw it on a national level. And not all parts of the country got affected the same. And here I am coming into someone's office, telling them they can better their life when people couldn't pay their bills. Right. But the reality is, looking back, there was more people that took advantage of that opportunity and became more successful during the downtime. And I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a cool experience on a lot of levels.
Yeah, that is I think that's a really good point because, you know, right now we're experiencing that economic downtime, and
Yes.
you see a lot of people, you know, one of my agency clients sells a program to kind of help people increase their income. And, you know, there's people who are jumping at it and who are seriously having, you know, some life-changing results. And then there are some people who are in that fear mode and they can't get out of it. You know,
Yes.
and there's that. You mentioned earlier, you mentioned earlier how it's funny how the first time you hear something, you don't really you don't really get it yet. Right.
Yeah.
And I've definitely experienced that in training people for Cutco.
Yes.
You know, my job in training, you know, sometimes because we start people off with a 2-day seminar, used to be 3 days. And, you know, sometimes I think I'm just giving the greatest sales advice in the world, and I'm giving them all these like tricks with objections and stuff, but then they like go out and they don't like even follow the script. Right.
Yes.
What I've learned is like when training salespeople, the simpler, the better. And I've just got to be a professional repeater of like the main things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so you covered a lot. You covered a lot of your story. Let's back up to real estate. That was your first time getting in sales, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us about kind of how you got started. Were you a machine from the start? Did you, you know, did you close your first house on your first visit? Kind of how did that unravel?
Yeah. So I had no sales experience prior to that. I might have been a book nerd and everything, but I had no sales experience, and I lacked the understanding of sales in its essence, right? Thankfully, when I left my computer job, I needed to have income coming in, so I got a job at a restaurant being a waiter. And that's where I started learning how to sell.
Right.
Okay, because every table was basically a sales event. I would read the table, see how much interaction. So I started developing some pretty core salesmanship skills without realizing it. So that was really beneficial. When I started, I had a sort of a running start, if you would. Okay. And I immersed myself in books. What I see a lot of real estate agents fail to do is I went out to the bookstore, and every first year in real estate, how to do real estate, I consumed everything. Okay. Because what I realized was people can only give you as much help as they have time to give you. And it's just like in sports, you have practice time, but the real people that succeed in sports are the people that practice outside of practice. So I dove into every real estate book. I think it was Tom Hopkins. I was doing the Mike Ferry. I was doing a lot of these big trainers. And the office I got into, I was so blessed because it was a small, top-performing office. Why that's important is you'll play up to the standard that's set around you.
Yeah.
If you're surrounded by lazy people, it's much easier to be lazy than it is to be a go-getter. Right. Well, these people were all go-getters. The parking lot was filled with Lexuses and Mercedes. You know, I came in my Toyota Corolla. But that was good because that uncomfortable feeling every time I came into the office create this driving desire in me to want more. Because I wanted to belong. I wanted to fit in. And to fit in meant you had to look the part, you had to dress the part, you had to talk the part, and you had to be the part. So I think I was about a month in real estate, and I was just hammering it out. Anytime I got a phone call, I was kicking butt. And I think I was 2 weeks in, I wrote my first contract, but it didn't get accepted. But one of the things I look back on now that benefited me most, I failed forward fast. Yeah. Meaning I didn't wait to learn to do. I did and learned. Right. I went out and I failed and I said, crap, what was I supposed to do here? And then I filled in the blanks. And I look back and that was a, I don't even know where I got that, but I look back and I see that as a skill I developed somewhere because I was constantly taking action. Yeah. And I think it was April 5th, 2004, I sold my first house. Okay. So it was about a 3-month time period. Okay. Which in real estate, where you're on 100% commission, 3 months feels like basically, you know, you're in a famine. Right. So I was just hungry and I was hungry and hungry. And long story short, that first month in April, I sold 2 houses. The second one was almost 800,000. Right. So I got the itch. Right. You know, once I started seeing a little results and I got my name on the board and I got to write it next to everyone else's numbers because we used to put our numbers on the board. Yeah. It became a competition. I wanted to be one of the players. And they're putting their name up on the board 5, 6, 7 times. I would literally look at the board at nighttime and write my name in sometimes, just envisioning my name up there.
Mm-hmm.
That first year, I closed 10 and a half deals, which if you were to look at my production, my 3 months were my probationary period, basically learning the ins and outs. So from April to December, I sold about 10 and a half houses, which in California, you know, a house is about $350,000. Right. I did pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
So, did pretty well after that. And I'm very blessed.
Yeah. That's an awesome story. And a couple things I think that people can learn from that is, first of all, I mean, it's a common theme. You know, it seems obvious, but it can't be stressed enough, just that people who succeed in their field tend to be hungry to learn.
Yes.
Always learning more. I think Tony Robbins uses the acronym CANI, constant never-ending improvement. Right.
Yes.
And for me, that was huge. You know, in the Cutco world, we have something called the Vector Connect audio library, where pretty much the site we go to enter orders and stuff. We have their messages on how to get referrals, how to close deals, how to do like all the different ins and outs that we could want from people who sold like $1 million worth of kitchen knives like the year before. And we can access all that stuff for free. And, you know, I tell my team, like, if you just listen to like one of those a week, you're automatically putting yourself in the top 1% of representatives. So that's huge. I think the learning side of things, and then also just the action taking side of things too, you know. In sales, I mean, you know this, but it's such a numbers game, and you know, you can learn a lot from books, and that's definitely important. But I think a trap people fall into is only wanting to like get the perfect book or the perfect like key. Yeah. And you know, really the key is to just, you know, get your head hit a few times and figure it out along the way. So that's huge. So tell us a little bit about neurolinguistic programming. What is that, and how have you used that to help you in your career?
Sure. Let me first touch on what you just said, just to clarify something too. Yeah. One of the things I think was important in my office and what I learned was respecting salespeople. Mm-hmm. I noticed some salespeople look down on sales, and it's really a shame because it's a limiting belief that holds them back. I love good salespeople. Right. And when a good salesperson does a presentation, it feels good. Yeah. It feels like you're taken care of. In fact, in my office, a Cutco rep, I can't remember who it is, did such a phenomenal job. Our closing gift was I don't know if it was the butter knife or whatever that is with the company logo on it.
Yeah, the spatula spreader.
Exactly. That's what we gave out because my boss was an expert saleswoman, and she always respected the hustle of sales. Right. Meaning you don't always have to be the best salesperson, but if you're coming from a genuine place and you're giving it your all, you prepared, there's a large part of the population that will respect that, especially people at high levels. Yeah. Oftentimes they'll reward you because they see themselves, right? They say, you know what? So there's a lot of things I learned in those few years that really helped me going forward. Now, neurolinguistic programming, I have a tendency to always unpack things I like. And I'm sure just like me, you listen to people talk and you notice they say certain words, right? They say certain things, phrases, they have certain approaches. Well, Tony had a certain approach too. And as I was learning about him, I learned he was using what's called neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. There's a lot of ways to explain it. It could be like the science of success, but the way I interpret it, there's a strategy for how we think and how we interpret life, and it has a result. And if you duplicate how people think and speak, you can start to duplicate their results, right? If you walk slouched over, it affects your body. If you speak to yourself in a harsh tone, it affects your enthusiasm. So, you know, like they say, when you're prospecting, you get on the phone, shoulders back, put a smile on your face. All these things have a basis somewhere, and neurolinguistic programming helped me understand a lot of that, specifically the language part of how we speak to ourselves. Because up until that point, I knew that affirmations were good, but I didn't really understand the mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And this came to play with specifically in real estate with building rapport, right? Because a lot of our influence and sales skills come after our ability to connect.
Yeah.
Right. So you could have so many great, let's just say, you know, your product so well, but you lack fundamental ability to connect with people. Your product knowledge is useless.
Right.
So NLP helped me understand how to connect and relate with people better, how to build rapport quicker, specifically by reading body language, by listening to the type of words people were using. If they were saying things like, I can picture this, they were visually, you know, creating a world inside themselves. So I knew I had to mirror that and say, you know, get this picture, right? I had to respect their model of the world.
Yeah.
And it helped me basically add another building block to my sales skills that helped me continue to develop my ability to influence people. You know,
Yeah. So what, I mean, if you could take something specific that you learned about neurolinguistic programming,
sure.
And how you applied it and what kind of a difference it made, to give more clarity, I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah. So when you're talking to people, and for example, if I asked you can you remember the color of your house when you grew up? What color was it?
Tan.
Okay. So it must be a very specific door that you're thinking of right now, but most people will look up. So when you ask people questions, you can watch where their eyes go.
Right.
And just by observing them, you can tell what they're doing in their head.
Mm.
So when you ask someone a visual picture, they have a tendency to look up. And if they look up to the one side, I can't remember which one it is, they're making a picture. And the other side, they're remembering a picture.
Right.
Well, if I'm talking to you and you're constantly looking down, that tells me you're a lot in your feelings. So I'm a natural high energy person. I'm a natural visual person. And I could run over someone if they're you know, an emotional, like slower person.
Right.
So I have to be observant and watching what they're doing because, you know, their eyes will tell me a lot about what's going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Also, I learned hypnotic language patterns. And that's kind of what the language of influence is also based on, is learning how to speak with embedded commands. I'm trying to think of a common one back then. You know, there was a phrase like, you can sign the contract and we can get started today. Wouldn't that be great? So, you know, that's Tommy Hopkins. That's kind of what he did, but that's actually embedded commands, right? And then you're doing a tie down at the end of it. Mm. And I was learning these language patterns that these expert salespeople were doing, probably unconsciously. I was learning them as far as, okay, why are they getting so many people to feel comfortable?
Right.
Well, they were getting people to get excited because they're saying these things that were helping people relax. And it helped me understand that it's not how you want to speak that matters. Mm-hmm. It's how your customer wants to hear.
Right.
You have to speak into their way they like to buy. Mm-hmm. So it's understanding how the person's model of the world works. And I'm no expert, so I wish I can give you a better in-depth thing. But I use bits and pieces, basically.
Yeah. That's really helpful. And I think that's huge because I think that me personally, when I was new in sales, I mean, I thought that I just had to be like the most energetic, like this is awesome. Cause that's, you know, I had a decent amount of success doing that.
Yeah.
You know, you definitely have got to learn how to be like the prospect that you're with, and whether that's your tone of voice or the way that you're phrasing things, or whether it's your body language. I totally get that. And I think that's something that Tony Robbins hits on a lot more than a lot of other people, is he talks about building rapport by realizing that but by mirroring people, by
Yes.
realizing that a lot of rapport is hidden in the body language.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I think that that's super helpful for people. So, oh, did I lose you? No, you're there.
No, I'm here.
Sorry, I got a call here and it totally put Zoom away. So
That's
anyways,
cool.
if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice from when you were brand new in sales, just starting out, what do you think you would tell yourself?
Think more long-term. When you get caught up on being transactional,
Yeah.
I mean, what's in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
you got to know how to harvest, but you also got to plant long-term crops.
Yeah.
Because what you want to do is think, what am I doing today that's going to set me up for success 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now?
Yeah.
Not only financially, but professionally as far as leverage, right? Whether it's building a team, whether it's creating a system to duplicate your results and branch out your models. For so long, I've had a very transactional mindset, and I've begun to think more in systems now.
Yeah.
Because systems offer me the ability to become duplicatable and obviously step out of the business, which is ultimately where I'm at now is that. But back then, I was just making sales.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd probably say invest my money more. Sales is a sexy business because you get paid sometimes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But money comes, money goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The goal isn't just to get the money, it's to grow the money. So I would have been more responsible in terms of investing and owning more of the product. That's one thing I think I see salespeople fail at is whatever you're selling, you should own a good portion of it.
Yeah.
Not just because you believe in it, but because you no longer have to sell something you believe in on a personal level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you genuinely believe real estate's a good investment, you don't have to convince people,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you believe Cutco is a great brand, you could just share with them your personal story and
Right.
you know, so a lot of just maturity too as a salesman.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely an easy trap too when you're new in sales to get in that kind of transactional mindset. And
Yes.
because I mean, early on you're seeing big dollar signs that you haven't seen before, and
Yeah.
it's like it's people forget that the reason they got those dollar signs is by providing value, by listening to people and taking care of people. And you know, even just in my short time in sales so far, you know, I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I would have kept in better touch with my customers,
Yeah.
and really built those systems to keep the relationships on the up and up.
Yeah.
So that's huge. You mentioned you're now focusing more on systems.
Yes.
Could you give us an example or two of some of the systems you've started to implement that have helped you out?
Well, I made a transition 2 years ago to only work with sellers. The marketplace is too competitive and too saturated, specifically in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized right away I can't be everything to everybody, and frankly, anything I do is taking time from other things. So I said, okay, I'm only going to work sellers. Then I said, okay, what type of seller I'm going to work with? I'm only working with for sale by owners. So my whole business is geared towards servicing for sale by owners, period. And it's allowed me to produce at a high level. I've modified a lot of my business geared toward the wants and needs of that specific type of customer. So everything I do is designed to be efficient. Specifically, I think one of the things, if you were to say, Seth, what was the biggest system you put in place that helped you grow?
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest system for me was an FAQ sheet. I quickly realized as my business increased, more people had more questions and more problems.
Yeah.
but they were similar problems.
Mm-hmm.
So what I started doing about a year and a half ago was I wrote down all the common questions buyers have, and the buyers were going to ask the buyer's agents, and the buyer's agents were going to ask me.
Yeah.
So I sat down with my clients and I had them answer all these questions in advance, and I provided these buyer's agents with the questions so they didn't have to call me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to get myself outside of the business with still providing the value that was needed.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So small things like that enable me to focus on what's most important, and my main job is bringing in business.
Mm-hmm.
So I have about 5 other things like that I do, that if I don't need to do it, I don't want to do it. That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
And what I see a lot of realtors do, like, for example, when they're going to go show a house, they make you call them and then they call their clients. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
On my deals, you just call the client directly and you set it up with them.
Mm.
Right? Removing me out of the process,
Right.
it makes it easier to coordinate for the buyer's agent, but it also frees up my time so I can focus on getting more business. Right? So it's understanding what's important for me to do and what not to do, and creating something to stand in the place of me when I can't be doing it.
Definitely. And I think that that's big, because in business and in sales, there's so much stuff to do always. And the to-do list is always growing. And, I remember when I was a sales rep in the Columbus office, there were a ton of other sales reps who, not to like talk poorly about them, they just weren't selling as much as me. And they scheduled like a meeting for everyone to like organize their papers.
Yeah.
What are you doing organizing papers? Like, that's like, and even, in my business out here now, it's like there's, now that there's so many more moving parts in terms of recruiting and training and all that stuff, I've noticed that there's just like, I've got to focus on the few tasks and pour most of my time. I mean, it's like 80-20 rule, oriented. So for sure. Let me ask you this. A lot of people in sales don't make a lot of sales, right? I think the statistic is 91% of realtors never sell a home or something.
Yeah.
So there's 2 different ways to look at it, right? One way is to look at it like, well, real estate's a scam, right? Selling houses, that doesn't work. Like, nobody makes any money in that. But clearly there are people making money in that, right? And obviously the best approach is to learn from those people, you being one of them. Now, so let me ask you, most people don't succeed in sales, right? Most people don't sell a lot. Why is that?
Because they don't like being a salesperson. Your identity is really important, because at the end of the day, even right now, I talk to agents all the time. Oh, I don't want to be a pushy salesperson. They have this negative view of what a salesperson is.
Yeah.
And you can learn all the scripts, you can get all the leads, but inherently, if you look down upon salespeople, it's going to affect your performance.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to love the game. You got to love the game, and then you got to love the product you're in. And if you're not in the right product, that's okay. Find a product you do like. If there's a product, real estate for me just is sexy on every level, right? Mm-hmm. I love the product, but I love the game so much. But I can work at a car dealership too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I love sales so much.
Right.
I just enjoy the fact that every day is like, it's like a sport, right?
Yeah.
Some days you win, some games you lose, right? Mm-hmm. Well, some people aren't cut out for sports. Mm-hmm. They can't handle the losses. And they get too excited over the victories, right? And victories are great, but, for me, I think a lot of realtors, they don't like sales fundamentally. That's the first thing. Because I believe 80% of your success is your mindset.
Mhm.
And you can sit 10 people in a room, give them all the same script, give them a phone. Maybe one of them will succeed. You know, maybe one. It's because fundamentally they got some stuff going on in here. And, yeah, just reality.
For sure. And in terms of mindset, then, I know that you're big on affirmations. I know that there's mixed opinions on affirmations. I think what people don't realize about them is that the way that you think is going to affect the way that you act, and the way that you act is going to affect your outputs, right? So, it's not like, oh, affirmations are all of a sudden going to create these results, right?
Yes, correct.
But at the same time, it's not hokey, because the way that you think is habit, and it's based largely, like you said earlier, on your environment. So it's definitely big for planting seeds in the subconscious mind.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about, because I know a lot of people like to structure affirmations differently, and
yes,
what's worked for you?
So to touch on what you just said, when you think, it creates a feeling first, and then you act. Right? Which produces your results. So affirmations are like this. They're one tool in your tool belt. Similar to a carpenter has a hammer. Hammer is a very important tool, but it's not the only tool. Right. You have a saw, you have a tape measure. Hammer just happens to be the one that's used most, let's just say. Well, that's how I look at affirmations, because we're constantly talking to ourselves all day long. It's just a fact, right? And I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson, you become what you think about all day long. Other people like Earl Nightingale have said it too, you become what you think about all day long. So let me put this in context. I was struggling financially a few years ago, and I asked myself, how could someone as smart as me be struggling? Because I just couldn't figure it out. I knew what to do in my head, but the results were something different. So I was listening to The Strangest Secret again by Earl Nightingale, and he said, you become what you think about most of the time. And I asked myself, what am I thinking about most of the time that's producing these results? Yeah. And I realized I was just trying to get by, basically. I was just trying to get enough sales to make it through the month, to make it through my minimum and get by. So I sat down and I said, what would I have to think to not only get by, but to thrive and prosper, right? So I identified one of my core problems was if I didn't have business. Okay, let me give you an example. If I didn't have an appointment, I showed up late, I didn't necessarily shave or get dressed, took longer lunches, left early, because I didn't have any clients to work with. Right. So I realized one of the things I had to start telling myself is I'm always busy. I've always got clients. My calendar's always full. Because the more I started saying that, I said, okay, I've got so many clients that want to work with me. Okay, so if I had so many clients that want to work with me, what would my day look like? Well, I'd be in at 8 o'clock. Okay, so I started following the pattern of those affirmations. Because I think a lot of people think you just say affirmations and all of a sudden your life is magically changed. Right. They're just one part of the puzzle. But they're a consistent part, because I'm thinking all day long in a positive, progressive way. Because I'm speaking what I want to see into existence. Meaning more and more people want to work with me. My sales are constantly increasing. And why this is important is because, let's just take appointments, right? Everybody knows more calls, more leads, more conversion, more appointments, more sales, right? There's a funnel. Yeah. So I always tell myself, every day I'm listing and selling houses. Every day I'm listing and selling houses. I'm constantly putting more and more deals under contract. Well, from saying that, it creates this air of confidence in me too, which just as well as I do. When you're with a customer, they're picking up on your energy first.
Yeah.
So all day, instead of beating myself up and feeling sorry for myself and having a pity party, I'm building myself up.
Mm-hmm.
So those affirmations are basically keeping me at a level 9 or a 10. Instead of getting consumed with a problem like there's traffic on the highway. You know what I mean? People get so caught up. Well, they're saying affirmations too. They just don't call them affirmations.
Yeah.
You know, they're complaining. Those complaints are affirmations.
Yeah.
The second step, which people don't realize, is I use affirmations as a platform, let's say more appointments, but around that platform, if that's the hub, there's a wheel and there's spokes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to have more appointments, you got to have more leads. So then I say, okay, I constantly set appointments every day. I always have more than enough leads. Everywhere I go, people want to work with me. So I'm building affirmations around these things. Then the second step is asking questions. I say things like, how can I easily set more appointments today? What can I say differently to make people excited to work with me? Right? So there's different tools I use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Affirmation is just at the front of it. And the biggest thing I think it would help salespeople, if you have an affirmation that is positive, and let's just say it aligns with your goal, every failure I have is never a failure because I label it a success. This is so huge. And if there's anything I can convey to anyone listening here, just because you don't see the fruit of your labor today, never label it a failure. I don't care what it is. I have a listing right now where someone called me a year and a half later. I have another listing where I called the lady for the first time a year ago. See, we can't see how the dots are going to connect. We just have to keep believing they're going to connect. We can only see how they connect in hindsight. But if we look in hindsight and we look how success works, success is a jagged line. Mm-hmm. So if I'm making calls and I don't set an appointment, I still pump myself up. Today was a great call. I showed up. I was ready. I took great notes, right? Mm-hmm. I'm constantly building myself up, and I leave with the mindset, something I did today is going to produce more business for me in the future. Mm. I don't care what it is. Even this interaction right now, I have an affirmation and belief. Everything I do is creating more and more opportunities for me in the future. Mm-hmm. Because no one's going to hit 100, no one's going to be 100%. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get every client. You're not going to go on every appointment and close the deal. It's just not possible. But what I can do is leave every appointment feeling like a freaking winner. And that's where affirmations come in for me. You follow me? Yeah. I'm my biggest cheerleader. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love that attitude about it too, because when you take that attitude, you're totally detached from your happiness being connected to the result.
Yes. Because you can't control it. I mean, you can, but you can't. Mm-hmm. Some people are just not going to want to work with you. They're not going to want your product. It's just a fact of life. Mm-hmm. Just like you don't want people to obligate you to work with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I have a friend that's a CPA and he obligates me to work with him, that sucks. Yeah. Right? But that's what we think other people should be for us. Mm-hmm. See, I have a belief that I always have more than enough business. And whenever you have an abundance of business, you don't have to cry about those little things like your friend bought knives with someone else, right? Right. It doesn't matter because, hey, did you get good knives? Right? Because you have such a flourishing business, the losses don't hurt as much. You follow me? Mm-hmm. But that starts inside of you way before the sales process ever begins. It's not a result of anything that's going on outside of you. It's how you're viewing your business that's creating that. And some people just get so devastated, their mindset is really weak,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. And you mentioned energy.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed about you in this call is you've got tons of energy.
Yeah.
And, sales, some people talk about sales as it's a transfer of energy or a transfer
Yeah.
of enthusiasm or emotion or whatever. Other than affirmations, other than your mindset, are there any like particular rocks that you find are super important to maintaining high levels of energy?
You know what? I don't know if I have high levels of energy. I think I don't. But when it's game time, I show up. So everything's like, at home, I'm not running around like a cheerleader, right? That'd be annoying, right?
Yeah.
So you got to know how to get in state. You got to know how to turn it on. And before this call, I did affirmations. See, so many people are going into opportunities cold. They haven't even said the script themselves before they say it to their customer, and they think the customer is going to sign a check. They don't even believe what they're saying, and they expect other people to inherently believe them.
Right.
So my thing is, I spend more time thinking and speaking to myself, because once I convince myself, the sale happens naturally. Because see, if you feel, if we have rapport, if you feel that, man, this guy really believes what he's saying, I'm going to influence you.
Right.
And it's your choice. You can either work with me or not. But when I wholeheartedly believe in what I'm saying, influence happens naturally. Because most people are walking around uncertain, unsure. So the only thing I do is constantly drill in my mind and say things to myself, because that my mouth is my tool. That's where everything begins and ends, is me. I'm the product, basically. You're buying me when you hire me.
Yeah.
Right?
For
So
sure.
affirmations is it.
Yeah. Cool. So I had a conversation, and I like to always ask this because I had a conversation with the CEO of Cutco, Jim Stitt, a while back, and I asked him what's his favorite book. Now, first of all, if I asked you that, are you going to say The Power of Your Subconscious Mind?
It's very impactful. I don't know if it's my favorite book, but it's up there.
Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, but my point being, I didn't get to my point. So I asked him that, and he said his favorite book is Start With Why, because he talks about how pretty much when you have your why, the how becomes apparent to you, or it doesn't really matter because you're going to get there regardless. You had a lot of early success as a realtor, and I would guess that probably a big portion of that was because you were really motivated by something, right? What was your motivation when you got started?
Finances. I didn't want to be broke anymore. So I think people kid themselves, but the reality is being broke sucks.
Yeah.
And you could either lie to yourself and say you're not broke, or you can get up and do something about it. I chose the latter. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted my name to be something special. I wanted to be someone that made an impact. When you don't come from anything, sometimes it sucks being in the background of life.
Sure.
I want to feel what it felt like being on stage. I want to feel what it felt like being able to pay for things and not have to stress. And that's all it was, brother. That desire to get ahead. That's what drove me hardcore.
Cool. And then right now, I mean, you're still performing at a high level. You're not broke anymore, right? So your motivation has probably changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So what's kind of your main motivation now, and what excites you going forward?
So you weren't going to ask me about my book?
What do you mean asking about your book?
Well, you said you asked the CEO of Cutco about his book. He said, start with why.
But
I thought you were going to ask me about my book.
You said it'd be up there. I kind of asked you about it, but in a yes or no question.
Yeah.
What's the book then?
So I have a handful of books.
Yeah.
At the beginning of my career, Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy was a big one. Brian's a very intellectual guy, if you ever heard him.
Yeah.
He played a big role at the beginning. He was my kind of calm down from Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah.
Tony's high, and kind of balanced me, But now it's just the classic books, the How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Those things are constantly there in front of me because those things never go out of style, right? Mm-hmm. So I love those books. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. David Schwartz's book, The Magic of Thinking Big or whatever. Those books have stayed around the test of time for a reason, right? So those would be my books. I'm trying to think if there's anything I haven't said now. But to answer your question now, your question is, what's my motivation now? Mm-hmm. It's still money. I have a family now, and everything you do in life, money is as important as the air we breathe. Mm-hmm. Try living without money for a week as we see what's going on in the economy right now. Most people with a month without money, most people would embrace what's going on right now if financially they were more prepared. Let's put it that way, right? Not going out to eat. Yeah, it's inconvenient, but I enjoy home-cooked meals. So there's a lot of things we could look at that finances is a catalyst. And plus, I have 4 children. I have a wife to take care of. Mm-hmm. And my wife's a stay-at-home mom, right? So my family needs the funnel to be coming in. And now my vision is just making a positive impact on people. Whether it's through something I write, whether it's teaching someone something, obviously with my kids, I want to share my information because there's a lot of lost people out there, right? And we're sitting on one of the greatest opportunities in human experience, right? Mm-hmm. And we have the internet, we have cell phones, we can go anywhere, anytime. We have all these great tools, yet most people aren't really using those tools.
Yeah.
They're spending more time learning about Netflix and what shows are on, mm-hmm. right, than developing themselves and becoming great. And my intention now is just anytime I can make a positive impact on people. Twitter is another platform I use to do that. Mm-hmm. That's my goal, is to share some of this stuff in my head, to be a teacher.
Right on. Well, I think that we're closing in on the end of my time here with you. It's cool. Been a blast. I think people are going to take a ton of value away from it.
Thank you.
And I've had a ton of fun. What just closing remarks? What do you want to leave people with?
Just to believe in whatever you want, you can have. And whatever reason you're saying that you can't have it, you can't do it, if you stop saying that, majority of the time, doors are going to open up for you. The path's going to be revealed, and it's going to happen quicker than you expect. So if you're young right now looking at a big mountain and it looks like it's hard to climb, if you've been up the mountain and you fell back down it doesn't matter. If you think about something long enough, it'll eventually come true. My experience with Tony Robbins, I thought about it for 6 years and it came true, right? Everything you see is constantly unfolding, and sometimes when your dreams are unfolding, you don't realize it. So sometimes you have to have a sense of awareness. That's why I think journaling is important. That's why I think doing things that involve gratitude, being appreciative for the things in your life, it keeps you balanced and kind of centered to realize that I might not be where I want to be, but man, I'm headed in that direction, right? And just enjoy life as much as you can, and I don't mean partying and enjoy it, but in here enjoy it, You know, don't always run to the next goal. Stop and just realize, hey man, I did a great job. You know, celebrate a little bit in terms of your accomplishments. That's pretty much it.
Right on. Well, hey, I appreciate it. The Language of Influence
Yes.
coming out soon.
Yes.
Definitely check that out. We'll include a link somewhere. I'm still, this is my first Gumroad product, right? So I'm still putting everything together in terms of that, but somewhere we'll include a link there. If you're nice, we'll include some sort of discount or something for them.
Okay.
But no pressure on that.
Yeah. I got it.
And yeah, we'll also include links to the real estate affirmation book, the affirmations that you've used to succeed at a high level. We'll include
Excellent.
a link to Write and Get Rich as well for anyone interested in stepping up their Twitter game. And yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you so much. And
Awesome.
we'll be in touch. All right.
All right. Thanks, my man.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Later on.
Wow, really great stuff there from Seth. I want to thank him again for taking the time to do that interview. And I want to thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, we're trying to get to 50 subscribers by the end of the week. We're at 30 right now, so every single subscribe counts. So make sure you subscribe. Plus, then you'll get notified when we have another great video about politics or business, entrepreneurship, current events, and so on and so forth. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Once again, you hit that notification bell, you'll get notified every time we have a new video that comes out. I have all of Seth's information in the description. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Make sure you check out some of his digital products. Guy has a lot of wisdom to share and a lot of great experience. But that being said, last thing I'm just going to ask is try to share this with someone you know, and ideally share this with everyone you know, because I know that, pretty much anyone in any field could get some value out of listening to a really successful guy like Seth and his outlook on things. So thank you again for watching the video. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do that. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.